Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 873 of the Juicebox Podcast. Mellisa is an adult living with type 1 diabetes who has had a shift in her thinking and her health. While you're listening today, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Hey, listen, if you'd like to help out with T1D research, you can do it right from your home at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Just join the registry and complete their survey. When you do, your answers will help people living with type 1 diabetes. They may help you, and they're going to support the podcast. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Want 35% off your entire order at CozyEarth.com? You can get it by using the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. And speaking of saving money, I have a sponsor called BetterHelp.com. And if you use the link BetterHelp.com/juicebox, you will save 10% off your first month of therapy. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. Click on the links, support the podcast. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. Now, US Med is where Arden gets her Omnipods and her Dexcoms from, and they carry way more than that. So check them out at usmed.com/juicebox or by calling 888-721-1514. That's how you get your free benefits check and get rolling with US Med. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
My name's Mellisa and I'm a type 1 diabetic. I have been diagnosed with type 1 since May of 2006.
Wow. And obviously you're from Detroit.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm from Australia. I'm in the state of Queensland and live on a nice little spot called the Sunshine Coast.
Oh, well, that sounds lovely.
Yes, at the moment it is absolutely pissing down, so not really.
Is it hot there? No, right?
Usually, yes, but we're in our winter at the moment, so I shouldn't complain. I think we had a high of 15 today was our high.
Wait.
So that's about as cold as it gets.
That's Celsius, right?
Yes,
oh, okay,
yes.
Okay. There's a massive heat wave everywhere else in the world, and you're just
yeah.
It's lovely out. It's not too bad. It's winter time. It's about 60 degrees. Everything's fine. I woke up yesterday and turned on the news, and it was, hey, it's 115 degrees in Texas. And I was like, wow, are they alive? Like, how does that work? But
no, of course.
How hot does it get there in the summer?
We can get up to around about high 30s to sort of low 40s, but we usually there'll be a heat wave period usually around the middle of January, and then it's gone, and then it just starts sort of tapering out from there.
Well, that's not much cooler than what I was complaining about here, so
Fair.
I woke up today and I was like, hopefully there's no word of blackouts and things like that. Do you guys do air conditioning there or no?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, that is a necessity, because it's only we say that by about mid-August we have a we call it a show, so like a carnival type sort of thing that happens in Brisbane, the city of Queensland, basically. And once that's over and done with, winter's pretty much finished, and it just starts getting hotter from that point on, basically. So it doesn't really last very long. We've sort of got about a month and a half or 2 months worth of coolish, but I'm still walking around in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts and just put a jumper over the top, and it's usually okay. So
every person my wife works with from Europe right now, they're on their calls and they just look like they're melting into their desks. You know, they're slumped forward. And my wife's like, "Are you okay?" Like, there's no air conditioning here. And a lovely woman from France, she said, "There's no air conditioning here." She told my wife she thinks her cat isn't doing well, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "What?" I was like, "Get an air conditioner." And then and apparently that's just not what they do. So
no, well, you wouldn't be. Yeah, no. So, imagine.
Well, anyway, that's what you get for being first, right, Mellisa? Yes. Your electrical system just can't hang. It was built too
very true.
I'm assuming. I wish I knew, because my son asked me, he's like, "Why the hell don't they have an air conditioner?" I was like, "I think if everyone started plugging in air conditioners, the grid would fall apart on them." So I don't know. I have to figure out why. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised.
You're like, this is not why I came on this podcast, you moron. So let's get
No. The things that you can think about at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, right. And you're straight, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah. Good for you.
Love it. Keeping my brain awake.
So when it's earlier, listen, it's not early here. It's 9 a.m, right? But I haven't done one in, like, I don't know. I like strategically started setting up my times a little later in the day. So nice. last night, everyone's around and I'm like, I got to get to bed. And they're like,
you were prepping for this like I've been. I'm like, I need to stay awake.
They're like, why? I'm like, I have a 9 o'clock tomorrow. And my wife goes, my first meeting is at 7. I was like, listen, that's your problem. I was like,
oh no,
you should have started a podcast, like not taking like a normie job. But I have to be going at 9. I was like, and I have to be thinking. She goes, do you think I don't have to think in the morning? And I was like, I don't know what you do.
That's not my problem.
Yeah. Again, listen, decisions were made. You are where you are.
That's right. You made your bed.
Exactly. Now go down there and make us some money, damn it.
Come on. Yeah, exactly.
These kids can't mooch off of us if we're not working.
This is true.
Oh my God. I listen, I say all the time, sometimes I say things on these podcasts because I hope my kids hear it one day. My son just graduated from college, and like I'm all about I'm not like right up his butt, like go work right now, you know, but it'd be interesting if he was a little more motivated.
Fair. Yeah. Yes.
He's having it's a very interesting separation I'm seeing as he leaves college.
Come on, little birdie, fly.
Yeah. Hey, and I don't know. He's doing fine. There's part of me that wishes that one morning I'd see him get up and just full of vim and vigor and be like, you know what I'm doing today? I'm finishing that resume. Like, great. Good.
Yay.
Yeah. Got you that degree. Could you go see if someone's interested in hiring you, please? Anyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway. All right.
No, that is fair.
All right, Mellisa. So you're how old?
I am 34.
Okay. And when were you diagnosed?
I like many others I have listened to on your podcast, was misdiagnosed as type 2 just before my 18th birthday. So it was a couple of days before Christmas of 2005.
Mm-hmm. 2005,
yes.
When you were 18. I'm assuming you were finishing school or had just?
Had just.
Had just. Okay. Did you go to, what would you guys call it? Uni?
Uni is the next step after high school, but I didn't. I had gone straight into a like a traineeship. I don't know what the equivalent would be, but basically just going straight into work and doing a course at the same time in the field that I was working in.
You know, the little voice inside of me that wants the podcast to be just as much fun as possible is like, you were like, what I did was I'm like, gun running, say gun running. Like, I swear to God, in my head, I was like, what would be more interesting, hooking or gun running? I hope she says something good, you know? And you're like, yeah, I went to training for something. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, boring. Yeah, tell me about it, right?
I learned how to count cards, Scott. I went to Las Vegas until I got arrested. It was amazing. Let me tell you about my cocaine habit. Nothing. You're like, no, I got a job.
Oh, I wish my life was more fun.
Well, what I've just described, I don't know if it would make it more fun, but...
This is true. More complicated, at least.
Anyway, I'm not denigrating your decisions.
No. They're
good, solid decisions.
Yeah, no. And you know, I think I, in retrospect, am definitely glad that I was diagnosed at the time that I was. My grandma, so my mum's mum, was diagnosed with gestational diabetes after she had my mother, and that was in 1960. And I think my grandmother was around, mid 30s, I think. And she basically just, as my understanding of it, it just somewhat developed into sort of being insulin dependent after having my mother. So she passed away a couple of years ago, but bless, she was definitely my inspiration. She had lived her whole, diabetic life, and pretty much had absolutely no complications, like other than just the normal general things that you get when you get older and older and older, but nothing. There was nothing. She looked after herself. She, did everything that she had to do. And I just remember looking at that and thinking, God, I hope I don't get that still, until I did.
Mellisa, you might have jinxed yourself. I don't believe in that, but it's possible.
I know, right? The amount of times that I had things come up in my life prior to having diabetes and thinking, I remember when I was learning to drive and the instructor got a horrible phone call from her son or daughter or whatever, and was, went on to explain to me that they were a diabetic and had a really bad low. And I had that general sort of understanding of it from my grandmother and everything. And, and I remember her just like sort of telling me like, oh, this is awful and this is so horrible. And thinking, oh my gosh, like, there are other people that, obviously have this and have really, really bad times with this. And I only really knew my grandmother, who was doing, like she would just went about her day.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking again, God, I hope I don't get this. Like, I hate needles and this would really suck. Like, no one really loves needles, I don't think. But
I always think that when people say, like, I don't like needles, I always think, like, do you imagine there's a bunch of people running around who like,
I love it.
You know what I love?
I love a good needle.
Do you know what I mean, though, when people start telling their stories, and they're like, and this was crazy because I don't like needles. Like, oh, really? Tell me more. It's fascinating. Could you just say you're a gun runner, please? I'm trying to get downloads here.
Oh, I love this. So hopefully there's something exciting coming up.
Yeah. Anyway, so, but I take your point.
Yeah.
So you just happened to be in this like random situation where you got to see somebody struggle with diabetes around.
Yeah.
How much? I mean, I don't know how old you have to be to drive in Australia. So how old were you then?
I would have been around 16. So it would have been, about a year to 2 years before diagnosis that I had that. And that was really I never had any friends growing up that had it. So I didn't have anyone that was in my general circle of people that had it. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of the first time that I had sort of encountered someone else other than my grandma. And it was god awful. Like, it was, like my grandmother was, after having it for so long and being diagnosed when she was, she would never inject herself in front of anyone. She'd always go to the bathroom. She would, for all intents and purposes, you would have never have known that she was a diabetic except for the occasional low, and, you could tell then, but,
right.
Yeah.
Did the driver's ed person make you drive to the house where the person was? Like, was it
no,
like your
no?
first...
But it was scary enough though that that was almost what I was sort of expecting. Like, I did say to her, like, do you need to go? Like,
yeah, because
she was like calling people to try and like sort this out. I don't know how old her kid was, but I just remember thinking like, this is like that there was that sense of life and death, and really not.
Again, Melissa,
grasping
I was
it.
just hoping that your first driving experience was you like basically
The mad dash
driving an ambulance like in a movie, and you don't know what you're doing, and it says like student on board. Anyway,
It'd make for a great movie.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Arden. So in New Jersey, you have to drive for 6 hours with a. Everything in New Jersey is about making money for somebody else. Like you're not allowed to pump your own gas, so they can hire people to pump your gas. Which I'm like, okay, that seems reasonable,
Fair.
right?
Yeah.
But when you
Convenient.
yeah, well, listen, it's convenience. It's lovely, but I like that they're making jobs. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the driver's ed thing is you have to drive with a driver's ed person for 6 hours before you can go. I don't know, before you can drive on your permit after that.
Yeah.
So Arden's out like on her second time. And she's with this woman. She goes, Dad, I don't even know how to describe this lady. And I was like, okay. She's like, she was rough. And I was like, okay. And I said, all she talked about, like, imagine this woman in her 40s were the men she had been with before. My daughter's like 17 going like, oh, that's amazing.
That's nice, dear.
Yeah. Great. This is lovely. And so, this adult, I'm making air quotes, is, got these kids trapped in a car telling her war stories. And my daughter's like, I just need to get these 6 hours.
If I listen to you, will you pass me?
Yeah. So the first day is all very easy. On the second day, they're doing a little more. It's ramping up a little bit. The woman gets a phone call and says, no, we can come. Yeah, no, this one can drive. I can tell. And my daughter's like, wait, what? And then she suddenly took her off this little route that they have for the kids to get them going and just took her right out on the highway to somebody's house to drop off like a certificate or something like that.
No.
Arden's like, I was her Uber driver.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awful. I thought you were going to say that she was going to have to drop her off for a booty call or something exciting.
No. From Arden's description, she's like, I don't think these stories were real. I was like, gotcha.
Fair. God.
Anyway,
people, right?
I have to make a note for myself to see if she can remember a couple of those stories the next time I ever on the podcast.
Yes.
She can tell her driver's ed horror stories.
Yes.
All right. So you grew up around your grandma. It was there, but it didn't seem awful because she was kind of keeping it to herself.
Yeah.
Right. You have this one story where this happens, then you're off to work after school, and how does it present?
I remember, like, I was that typical person who very rarely ate breakfast, and by about 10:30 would start getting very shaky, and just sort of like just generally feeling like that would have been definitely low symptoms, I imagine. And by that time, I just remember sort of thinking there was obviously something wrong. I had self-diagnosed myself with Ross River fever with absolutely no reason to think, like there was absolutely no valid reason for me to think that was what it was, other than it was like, well, it's not anything else. And that's something that's simple to, fix, hopefully. So I remember going to, that sort of happened.
Hold on, Melissa. You said something that I've never heard of before. Is it Ross River fever?
Yes. It's a mosquito-borne virus thing that just makes you feel like shit. So yeah.
Everyone who ever thought I might go to Australia one day was just like, nah, no thanks.
Nah. Like, look, there's plenty of nice things, but you don't want to don't get eaten by the mosquitoes.
Okay.
It sucks.
Do you remember that King Kong movie where they lived on that island, Scott?
Yes.
And the big spiders came.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that here at all. Don't worry. Yeah.
They're not big, but there's just lots of them.
So what just tell me the symptoms that made you think you had Ross River virus.
I was just the fatigue, the all over aches, the tiredness, and I'd sort of, that was pretty much like, other than I didn't really sort of link the symptoms of the shakiness or anything of being anything other than, geez, I probably should eat something. And just sort of, I remember going in at around about October-ish, and at that time I didn't really have a GP, like a general doctor or anything, and just going into one that was close to work, and she did the whole, yep, cool, right, we'll just run some bloods and we'll see what's going on. Cool. And then of course, I didn't bother following that up straight away, so time had passed. had eventually got them done, gone back, blah, blah, blah. And then she sort of, by memory, I don't know whether then she ran another lot of tests potentially, I think. And then it was a couple of visits before we got to the point of where I remember her telling me that my HbA1c, I think, was 12 by memory. And my fasting blood sugar when she checked it there was like 15. Like, well, it wasn't fasting, but it was, at the time was 15. And she's like, yeah, no, you have type 2 diabetes. You are like, and at the time, for context, I'm about 5'6", and at the time probably weighed around about 80 kilos. I don't know what the conversion is. And she's done her little BMI calculation and pretty much said you're about 20 to 25 kilos overweight, and that is the reason why you have type 2 diabetes. That was her first sort of go-to. She said you need to go on a low GI diet, and I'm going to give you some metformin, and I will see you back in a couple of weeks, and we'll go from there. Test your sugars, get a glucometer. And that was sort of the long and short of it. So I remember when I told my parents how angry, like my dad doesn't often, he's the sort of person doesn't get disappointed. He's, men of few words, and he was so angry at me. He was not directly at me, but I think obviously angry and upset that this was the situation, and that was the only emotion that he knew at the time. But it was crap. Like, it was such a horrible feeling. And then, mum sort of, thinking, it's all my fault. It's her mum's got it and all this sort of, and I'm like, but, at the time I was sort of like, well, they're telling me that I've done this to myself. And so I had all of this
Can I ask?
Awful. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Did your dad express that he was mad at you, or did you feel it from him?
I'm a bit of both. I think he was very short with me and very snappy at me, and I think he had even, by memory, I remember being at the place in my house, but I can't remember exactly the words that he said, but it was very aggressive. It was, like very blamey and very aggressive. And that hurt me more than anything, because it was, like when the person that you don't expect to say something says something, and it, cuts you more than,
right.
Yes.
Well, on top of that, none of that was true. And
no.
And the assumption you're going on was that, what's that process like for those couple of weeks? You're doing metformin, it's obviously not helping, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting.
Oh, I felt like I was just chasing my tail. That literally, so it was, I remember I started taking the metformin. She increased my doses. Well, I can't remember whether I'd gone back to her or whether she'd sort of given me the instructions to sort of go, well, if your levels aren't X by this point, then take 2 tablets, or, slowly increase your dosage. And then I started getting all the lovely side effects from metformin, the upset stomach and the bit of nausea. So, was having to double dose up on every, other thing to counteract all of those. My sugars were awful. There was absolutely no improvement based on the metformin. So I remember going back to her, and she said to me, "You're obviously not eating well enough, because look at your levels." And I just
and you were following the directions.
Yeah. I remember for Christmas Day, I had eggs for breakfast, and I had one piece of bread with cheese and chicken on it for lunch and also for dinner. I was, I like,
Lady, I ate chicken bread.
oh yeah, exactly. Come on, like, cut me some slack. Like,
Well,
it was, like, no treats, no nothing. Like, I very much took what she said as serious and thought, oh my gosh, like, I don't want this. Like, if I've done this, then, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And she, made me feel like I was, this was all my fault. And my knowledge also was as sound as it was, when she said to me, you just need to eat low GI food, look for the labels that say low GI. It didn't really give me anything. So
hey, you went
I
to
remember
a doctor, not a witch doctor, right, Melissa?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
you weren't
This
out in
was
the
just-
middle of like nowhere in a hut or something when this happened.
Oh
No?
no. And you know
Okay.
what? Like, this gets better. I feel like I must be a magnet for really awful doctors, because I feel like this is all I've encountered. We've got an abundance of dumb people over here.
So that job you got after high school was with the travel council for Australia, right? Yeah. Would you guys like to come over and get some Ross River fever and be treated by dumb people when you have to go to the doctor?
Oh yes, don't move over here looking for a doctor if you think you've got diabetes or Ross River fever, for that matter, because you're absolutely stuffed.
Melissa, you have to keep talking, because at the moment your episode is called Chicken Bread with Cheese. So I don't think you want to get stuck
That's
with
brilliant.
That. Yeah. Hey, have I ever told the story about when I spoke in the Dominican Republic?
No.
So I accepted an invitation to speak about diabetes in the Dominican, and they asked me to come to talk about management in depressed areas where people didn't have money for stuff. So I wrote some stuff for myself. Had never been to the Dominican Republic, got there, realized that my idea of poverty and their idea of poverty were not the same thing. But I figured, I have to rethink what I'm going to do. But they wanted to take me to dinner first. So I arrive at my hotel, where a hotel employee is sitting out front on a lawn chair with a sawed-off shotgun. He was the security. And I went inside and I started walking upstairs thinking, I've made a significant mistake. And so and that was saying yes to the thing, is what I was thinking. So I go upstairs, I get packed. They say they're going to come pick me up in a van. I get in the van, we're driving along, and a mosquito flies through the van. And I'm with like 2 people who came in to speak and 3 locals and the driver. And the locals just push themselves away from the center of the van to the edges of the van, and they're like, don't let it get you.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what is happening? And so I'm like, it's just a mosquito, I'm thinking. And then one of them very artfully kills it. And I mean, I had to ask, because I don't want to get bit by a mosquito, but what just happened here? And my best recollection of one of them was like, you get chimichanga, or I forget what they said. And that wasn't me being like insensitive. I really don't. They said something similar to that. And they said, if you get that, you will just have diarrhea for months. And I'm like, can I go back to the hotel and see if the shotgun guy and I can like become friends? Like, this all happened
I'd
within
rather
like
try my chances there.
Yeah. This all became within like a half an hour of me being there. I was like, that's the security guy. And if I get bit by a bug that I can't see, I'm going to poo for a long time. I was like, oh, goody.
This is amazing. I'm so glad I came.
Anyway, great trip. It really was good. I just had to learn to dress like a local, which meant like you wear pants when it's 1,000 degrees outside. So I figured that, and long sleeves.
Yeah.
So I did all that. And the talk was really interesting. I've never since then or before spoken through a translator, but it was really amazing. Like, I stood in front of a crowd of a few hundred people, and in the middle of the crowd, there was a person in a soundproof box, and she spoke English and whatever local language was, best for everybody to hear. And I spoke, you could hear my voice over the speaker. And then everyone watching me sort of looked at me blankly for a second. And then she translated it. And then they nodded along, and then I found my rhythm, and it was really cool. Actually, going on the trip was amazing, aside from the shotgun guys and the mosquito.
The mosquito. Nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, literally.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't just a mosquito with a bad attitude. It was going to make me poop myself to death. And I was like, great. And other things like joint pain. And like they just described it as like your life will just end for a few months. And if it goes away, you'll be fine afterwards. I was like, oh, good.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, no.
Anyway.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I don't know why.
Mosquitoes suck.
Oh, is that what you took out of that? Because I took that hot weather places are to be avoided.
Well, yeah.
But
it's so much nicer than cold weather.
Oh,
cold weather. Yeah.
I mean, that's obvious. But the mosquitoes can't live in the cold, so who knows?
Well, yes.
So, I'm so sorry. Let's get back to where you were. Every doctor in Australia is terrible that you've met.
They're all dumb. Yes. So I think the next words that came out of her mouth were, if your blood sugar levels don't start improving, I'm going to put you on insulin, and threatened me with it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you were there. If you knew better, you'd be like, yes, can I please have the insulin?
Please give it to me. I think the thought that come into my head was, no. Like, you're not giving me that. That's a no from me.
Right.
And I that was the last time I saw her. And I think it was probably a week or two, I had gone to my original sort of family doctor and explained everything. This is what's happened. This is how it's come about. And she basically just said, look, you don't fit the profile. Yes, you could lose a couple of kilos, but that's neither here nor there. Like that's irrelevant. I think I'm just going to send you straight to an endocrinologist. This is this particular person. I'm referring you now. And basically went to him, and that's when he diagnosed me in the May, and had said that it was just latent onset, and he put me on Novamix.
How long did that whole process take from the first doctor getting it wrong to the next one getting it right?
December through to the May, so 5-6 months.
Wow, that sounds horrible.
Of being on the metformin. I can't remember whether I was on metformin first or Diabex first, but I remember being on both of them. I think it was a matter of, well, that's not working, let's try this one, sort of thing.
Yeah. All right, well, I want to find out what happened next, but first I need to tell you my chimichanga thing was not far off. It's chikungunya.
Oh, no, you were pretty spot on.
I'll tell you right now.
That sounds awful though still.
CHIKUNGUNYA. This is many years ago, so that I even came close to the sounds. I'm pretty impressed by, because
well done.
Yeah. No, I'm so happy with myself right now.
Love it.
Yeah, that I didn't just randomly say malaria or like a more common word that would pop into my head. That I was like, no, I remember it. Started like with
chimichanga, sort of.
Yeah, it was like CH, and then there were a lot of letters afterwards. That's how I. Anyway, there's a look into my brain.
Love it.
Frightening place.
Love it.
Frightening place that it might be.
No.
Okay, so were you receptive to getting insulin?
When he sort of was able to just sort of say, okay, everything that previous doctor had said was a load of rubbish. Listen to me. And
yeah, sure, buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're in a bad enough situation that you're willing to do that, though, right?
Yes, yeah. I was, and at the same time, I think going back to my original sort of like family doctor and her sort of saying to me, I'm going to send you straight to this guy. I really trust him. He's brilliant.
Helpful.
Hasn't got the best bedside manner. I'm like, well, I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
As long as he's not dumb. And
that's all I'm looking for. a level of proficiency that seems reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. Lower my expectations. And he was good. Definitely didn't have a bedside manner at all, but was to the point and explained things in a way that made sense to me, which bought the trust. He started me on the Nova Mix, and I sort of, went on to do that. I think by memory, my next HbA1c was around 9-ish, was, I think, by memory, the next one that I'd gotten when I was with him. So seeing as that I'd had really no management for that 6-month period other than being on tablets that just make you want to spew shit. Yeah. It wasn't too terrible, not great, but it was what it was. And just getting the dosage right, and got to a point where that wasn't too bad. Went to the dietitian, went through all of those things, and I think pretty much I got to a point where I was at that 7-ish level, and then it was like,
you start feeling better.
100%. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you ever have the wherewithal to go to your father and talk to him about what happened in the beginning?
I spoke to him, I think it was that next day, and just said to him, by memory, I think, I can't help this. I can't do anything about what it is. I'm just going to try my best, to try and make this as good as I can. And, I think once the shock of everything had sort of settled, they were both on board with trying to do as much as they could to try and help, from a supportive sort of standpoint. And again, it was nice having, my grandmother around, because she was, I think, I didn't find this out until after she had passed away, but from other family members, that she held quite a bit of guilt from what they had sort of said in regards to me also having diabetes.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah. She shouldn't have done that. Do you have kids?
No, I do. I've got a 5-year-old little daughter, Sophie.
Congratulations. That's lovely. I'm sad to hear she felt that way. What, I had a question. Then you said something sad and it zapped it right out of my head. Damn it. It's your fault, no. Melissa. I'm gonna blame you. I don't want to do what your dad did. I'm going to blame you. How's that?
It's your fault.
Damn it, Melissa.
But yeah.
I apologize.
Where was my brain?
No. Oh, no. I Dad. Hold on. Dad, Mom. Come on, Scott. What the heck? I don't know. It's gone.
No, I'm trying to think of where my brain was sitting at that too.
That's right. You know what we'll do? Melissa, we'll just put the ads right here. When you have diabetes and use insulin, low blood sugar can happen when you don't expect it. Gvoke HypoPen is a ready-to-use glucagon option that can treat very low blood sugar in adults and kids with diabetes, ages 2 and above. Find out more. Go to gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used in patients with pheochromocytoma or insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk. Have you found that getting your diabetes supplies can be a pain in the butt? I have too. But not any longer, because now we're getting Arden's diabetes supplies from US Med. To get a free benefits check, just call 888-721-1514 or go to usmed.com/juicebox. US Med has served over 1 million diabetes customers since 1996. And they want you to know that they're offering you better service and better care than you're getting now. US Med always provides 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. They carry everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Freestyle Libre 2 and the Dexcom G6. Arden gets her Dexcoms and her Omnipods from US Med. US Med accepts Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. US Med is the #1 distributor for Freestyle Libre systems, the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, #1 fastest growing tandem distributor, the #1 rated distributor in Dexcom customer service satisfaction surveys, and they are proud of the white glove treatment that they offer their customers. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. And that 888 number is special just for Juicebox Podcast listeners. Now, if you decide to go to the website, it's super simple. Here's what it tells you when you get there. Getting started is easy. From the comfort of your own home or office, you can now join over 1 million satisfied customers who rely on our staff of courteous, knowledgeable, and trained US Med customer care representatives to keep you up to date with your medical and diabetic supplies delivered right to your door. Super simple benefits check. Name, phone number, email, zip code, and then just hit the button that says request a free benefits check. It's that easy. Let US Med take care of your supplies so you don't have to worry.
Do it.
Okay. And then I'll tell you, I wish I knew which ads were going on this one. I'd do them off the top of my head for you right now because I'm feeling a little giddy.
Bleep.
I think I think the people paying for them would be just thrilled. Every once in a while, I do one, and I think I don't think they're gonna like that. I go, I like it.
Oh well, that's it. That's all that matters.
Good with me. I think it's fun. So I didn't mention Dexcom very much while I was doing the Dexcom ad. I still enjoyed the conversation, and I did.
Yes.
I said the link. It's good.
I'll say enough about Dexcom in all the right ways. No. Very much.
Well, no kidding, right? I guess let's pick up there then. So you're at that. It's a young age still. Are you? Oh, I have my question. Shoot, yes. Sorry, I walked in circles to get to it.
No.
What's it like? This is kind of a deep question. It's not on track with our conversation, so I apologize if it feels like it's out of left field.
No.
What is it like to have that realization that the kind of so-called promise of being alive isn't being fulfilled to you? Meaning you 10 fingers, 10 toes, you can walk, you can run, you can think, you can go out in the heat, you can go out in the cold, you can eat something. Like, what happens when you realize, like, wow, most people get this, I didn't get it?
I remember there was definitely a sense of feeling quite broken, and but at the same time, I think I used a bit of denial to sort of get me through, and just sort of a bit of fake it till you make it sort of thing. Like, I've always sort of tried to frame, even from the beginning, frame it as, surely this is a good thing. Like, I'm not the best eater. I'm not the best person with X, Y, and Z. And, if this is something that's going to kick me up the arse a bit and make me a bit more accountable to hopefully, having a longer life, that's a good thing. Like, I'd sort of, I don't feel like I know that there was that sense of feeling broken, but majority of most of it was sort of me trying to convince myself that no, this is okay. This is a good thing. This is making you be better. So that's,
Okay. I appreciate that. I wonder sometimes if people realize I'm just asking questions of people I want to know about Arden.
No,
that was one of those
I think
moments.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm just using the podcast for myself. I'm as amazed as anyone else that anybody's listening to it. So, you may have moved chicken bread with cheese to X, Y, and Z.
Oh,
see?
Oh, I do love X, Y, and Z. I use that every day.
Mm-hmm. So good on you, because the chicken bread with cheese was, in my opinion, it happened too early in the podcast episode. I like people to have to wait longer to find out why the podcast is named something. It brings my listen through rate up, Melissa, which, believe it or not, helps with the advertisers. They like to know you're making it past the ads. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
I remember when which I'll get to towards the end of my story, but I remember when I first started listening and not having any context around why you named each episode, why and what you did. So I was looking at all of these titles and going, no. Yeah. Don't know. Why? I was so confused. But yes, now you don't judge a book by its cover and you just listen to them all because they're all great.
I've gotten so much advice from people along the way, and none of it's been right. It's fascinating. Like, you have to put what the episode's about in the title. I'm like, I don't.
No.
Yeah, I'm not going to. And you have to do this and you have to do that. And one person told me that I need like a recipe once in a while because people with diabetes like to get recipes. And I was like, I'm not doing that either. You have to let people talk. And I'm like, I mean, I do, but I want to talk too. Like, and it's not just it's not a repository for people to just blather on. I have to tell you, Melissa, this is interesting. I recorded one the other day that for the first time I thought, I might not use this.
Oh.
I've never had that thought before. 8 years. Seriously, it's, what is it, 2022? I can't keep track. The COVID really messed me up. I don't know where I'm at. I thought it was going to come back, but I don't know what day it is. I don't know what year. I don't even care anymore. Like, it doesn't matter. The person I don't know that they answered one of my questions.
Yeah, right.
And what they said just rambled and went in circles. And I don't think it was purposeful. I think they weren't good at having the conversation. I think they thought they were. And I'll have to listen back to it.
Oh.
And I will. But if it makes my brain as numb as it did the first time, it's going to be the first time I just go, hey.
It's a no.
Yeah, the microphone didn't work. I'm sorry. I don't know what I'll say exactly because I feel bad about it. But I got to the end of it and I thought, I might be the only one that ever hears that. But anyway, like, I've gotten like a ton of bad advice. One of them, one of the people told me that I can't tell anybody how I manage Arden's blood sugars.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Can you imagine this podcast if we didn't talk about that?
Oh, God.
What would that be?
Again, dumb people.
Yeah, right. They're not just doctors. Melissa, dumb people are not just doctors.
Oh, God.
If this was just in Australia, that could be your title. But
so many dumb people.
I, for some reason, picture Australian people as less woke, I guess. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Although
no,
they locked you guys up pretty good during COVID, and you took it. So I don't know what to say about that either.
Yeah, you know what though? Like, I think there's an element of like, even still, like, we're so chill, like so relaxed about things. Like, there was different states in Australia that got locked up harder for a lot longer than what Queensland in particular did. And yeah, like we've been very, like, like, I know a lot of people who have gotten sick, and and it is what it is, sort of thing, but we've all remained very very relaxed about it, sort of thing, which is that's good. Queensland. Yeah, Queensland mentality.
Just chill out. Is everybody high as a kite? Melissa, what are you trying to tell me right now?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A little bit.
Everybody's just a little stone sitting on the beach?
Almost.
Is that
almost? Yeah. There is probably a higher. I'm not painting a very good picture for you, but
no,
there's probably
perfect. I can't wait to
visit. Yeah. We've got great beaches. And when it is sunny, it's lovely. But there is probably a higher percentage, I reckon, now, sort of between where I'm at and sort of the border for the next state, that are just very much that they're all very much
I heard you. Don't worry. You don't have to say it.
stoners and high on life and all that sort of stuff.
Hey,
Not that,
how can you say the beaches are great? Don't you have great white sharks all around that island of yours?
Yeah, they're in there.
Yeah. I'm never coming there. This is ridiculous.
Well, I consider where I'm at, we are sure, there's sharks and stuff, but we don't get, if you go any further north than where I'm at, you start getting killer jellyfish. These jellyfish are no doubt the size, they're tiny. They're tiny, like the size of your thumb, called irriganges. And they can kill you. And so can normal box jellyfish too, I suppose. But, they, we don't get crocodiles for the most part here. In our waterways as such, we don't. So yeah, we're a little bit more sheltered, which is nice.
I like that you think the statement, we don't get crocodiles for the most part, is comforting in any way.
I had to think about that because I remember there was, there's that one time that, one just happened to slip down the stream, so to speak.
That's the first.
There's always one.
That's the first thing you've said that felt like double entendre to me. You remember the time the crocodile slipped downstream?
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't have drank so much. I think I just made up a saying for anal sex. I'm writing that down. I want credit in the lexicon when it happens.
Yes. Oh, that's hilarious.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I'm awake now, Melissa. Okay, we're good.
Love it.
How do you get, how do you manage? Like, you mentioned Dexcom like you have it now, but you didn't have it, obviously, back then. It didn't exist. So how was management? I just seamlessly went from crocodile slips downstream to how did you manage your diabetes? Well. People really have to appreciate my prowess at some point.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You've got a way of just getting right back on track again. It's like, okay, and
then I took us right back off track again to give myself credit for doing it. Okay,
nothing wrong with that.
All right, I'm good. Okay, yeah. How did you start managing your diet? Eventually, this podcast is going to have nothing to do with diabetes. At the end, people are going to be like, "He's doing movie reviews." I don't know what's happening.
That's okay.
Okay.
So I had the Nova Mix, and I had an AccuCheck Go meter, and pretty much just used that right through by memory until around about, might have been maybe 2012, 2013-ish, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much between that point, that sort of 6 to 7 years, to be honest, just seems like an absolute blur. Like, thinking back, I can't really recall anything that really affected me, positive or negatively, when it comes to diabetes. Like, I was so, I just did the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And just, I would check my blood sugars a couple of times a day. I would, the Nova Mix would do just what it had to do. If it was high, it was high. Like, there wasn't anything else I could do about it, sort of thing. And there was never any, word about changing anything. And again, I was none the wiser and didn't really know anything else. So I just kept doing what I had to do, just kept, living the way that I knew how and didn't know anything else other than that way. And then
how did that lead to outcomes that were less than valuable, or did you not even, how were you even checking on your health in the beginning?
I reckon I probably, for the most part, I don't think, I've never been into DKA. I've never had a really bad low, not to the point of where, I've had to give myself glucagon a couple of times, but I've never had a really bad instance at either end. I was not getting my A1Cs checked regularly. I would sort of do it if I had to, or if the doctor was like, okay, we'll check it while we're in the clinic now. And yeah, very rarely was, I'd get my bloods done maybe once every, 6 to 12 months, again, when I was sort of like frowned upon and forced to. There was times I remember, I went on a holiday up to the top of Queensland, and I'm like, I don't actually have any strips, and was just completely unfazed by it.
Yeah.
Oh, I should probably buy some. And that was all that sort of entered into my mind. Got some, never used them. It was just like, oh, well, I'm on a holiday. And I think because, I would go and get my A1Cs and they were coming back, 7s and 8s. There was never enough to be a red flag. And again, knowing none of the wiser in terms of like the equal parts lows that I was having to equal parts highs, that was why I was getting those numbers, right. Like understanding that now. But yeah, like I was just doing the bare minimum. Like I was, eating as I wanted to. I've always been quite into, exercise, like gym stuff and everything. So I was still maintaining a relative amount of exercise. But that was sort of about it. And then I've known my husband since we were 14. So long time. Mm-hmm. And we got married last year. We've been together for 12 years. So probably around the time that just after him and I had sort of gotten together, was probably the time where I was like, I really need to get my into gear. I need to sort my life out. I need to get my health on track. Like I have something serious, that I have to, be accountable for and to, rather than just myself.
Where was he for those 8 years in between? I think I did the math right. You knew each other for a long time, but you've only been together for 12 years. What happened there?
With my previous partner before, we were all friends. And I think because everyone knew that I had diabetes, but it was very much, she's not worried about it. We don't have to be worried about it. Like they were none the wiser because I was so okay with everything. Right. If anyone ever asked, yeah, it's fine. It's good. And yeah, like I would never go into detail with anything. Like would never, anytime my parents would ever say, how is it? I would just give them the bare minimum, and it was always positive. And never really wanted to burden anyone with any of that, even though I was feeling like, I didn't know that I could be doing better at the same time, because there were I think while there was never this sense of, okay, well, let's try for a 6 A1C, or let's try and improve that 7 or 8. It was just like, yep, everything's fine. Cool. Yep. Cool.
So the number comes in a place where the doctor's like, that's good. And it doesn't matter how poorly you got to the number. You can kind of rest on that as your answer. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And again, having diabetes for 16 years and only knowing and really understanding all of this since listening to the podcast in the last 12 months, it's like seriously, there's dumb people. There is too many dumb people around here that aren't giving enough good quality information.
The whole
a person, shouldn't have to have diabetes for this amount of time without getting that general understanding.
Right. How much of your comfort with it being where it was, do you think was your age? And how much do you think it had to do with your initial experience and I'm going to say too, seeing your dad's reaction? There's no way you wanted him to know anything was wrong after that, I would imagine.
I think every part of that affected the way I looked at it. My mum has never been in good health. She's an alcoholic. She has had thyroid cancer and had her thyroid removed. She had epilepsy, which was somewhat induced by the doctors could never pinpoint whether it was due to anything in particular. Like they'd sort of thrown around the thought that it could have been induced by low blood sugars, but she was never diagnosed as a diabetic. So all of these other health factors that I've sort of grown up with and lived with prior to my diagnosis really sort of shaped my outlook and what I chose to tell them. Okay. Because it was just easier it not existing to them.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I understand. It's
yeah.
I think really we all kind of want things to go perfectly, like, oh, I got sick and my family jumped right in. They were just, they were just right there the whole time. But I don't think that is what happens for most people. I think that the idea, the hope that everything's okay, or it's just a new level of okay, is, I mean, I think it's on everybody's mind. Like, I don't think they think about it consciously, but nobody wants to walk around thinking everything's bad, everything needs effort. Here's a list of things we don't do anymore because we do this instead. There's an idea of like, stay normal, stay positive, keep going, ignore the stuff that's too hard to deal with. I never felt that way. I was always, when doctors would say like, oh, this is great. Her A1C 7.5. That's great. You're doing great. I was like, no, I don't think I am. Like, it's way close to the red part on the chart here on the wall, Mm-hmm. And the one that pushed me towards this was that I didn't have to worry about high blood sugars because she was too young for it to hurt her. And I thought nothing about that sounds scientific at all. No. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's a certain age where a detriment to your body it's a gimme. Like, it's just, what is that? It's a mulligan, right? Is that well, I've never been golfing in my life. It's weird that I reached for that. But you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't count. Doesn't count because she's 4. I was like, I don't think that's right.
No.
Like, so I don't know.
No.
And it wasn't for me. It was for somebody I cared about, which, interestingly enough, you just described the same thing that everybody else describes as an adult that comes on here, which is you really didn't take care of yourself until there was someone in your life that you wanted to be okay for.
Yeah.
And
100%.
And I'm not a psychiatrist, but I guess watching your dad grow up with a spouse who was sick, you didn't want to be that person to this person you're with now.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it was, I think, it was definitely that it's time to, be an adult now. It's time to batten down the hatches and start looking at what a future actually looks like. Are we going to have kids? All these sorts of things. And I remember going to that first appointment, and I had like a student doctor at the endocrinologist's office sit me down and ran through everything. And I think at that stage, my A1C was low 8s. And I remember him saying to me at the ripe old age of probably around about 20, 24, 20, or 25 or so, if you keep going this way, you're not going to make 40.
No, that's not good.
I'm like, yeah, right.
Okay. What do I got to do?
Far out. It was equal parts like, you're an asshole, and are you actually serious though? Mm-hmm. And it absolutely scared the shit out of me. Like, I thought, that's not okay. That's not fair. Like, I'm here and I'm ready to go now, sort of thing. And
yeah, Mellisa, I'm not letting diabetes slow me down.
No. I'm ready to go. Like, I'm and he sort of, I don't know, it was such a, like I had sort of gone in there in that state of, I'm ready. I'm ready to be compliant. I'm not, I don't want to be the person that you're putting, the strike marks against and stuff. Like I'm ready to listen now, sort of thing. And he just thought I was full of it. Like, and really just made me feel like, no, you're going to die if you keep going this way. And I'm going to scare you into thinking that you really, make sure that you really get it. And when I said to him that I was, hopefully wanting to start a family and this is my motivation, and he then passed me on to my now endocrinologist, and she has been amazing. She is equal parts amazing and stunning and lovely and kind and supportive and everything that you can sort of hope for, which has just made things so much easier.
Can I ask you to be introspective for a second? Because it feels like you're describing a scenario where a doctor heard you say something that made them think, oh, this one's ready, and slid you over to the other side of the ledger. Like, oh, we can start helping her now. Is there anything about you that would indicate that you weren't? Like, was that doctor assessing you correctly? I guess is my question.
I think because there was such a massive time between me seeing an my endo and not seeing them. I had my when I first got diagnosed, I was seeing an endo in a private practice, and then he then, I don't know where he went, and then ended up having to try and find another one. And it was that awkward stage of sort of not really wanting one and also sort of needing one at the same time. And when I finally got to that stage of where I got referred to them, I think he was just sort of looking at me like, well, you haven't seen one in at least the last 2 years.
Okay. It wasn't
really?
Because he heard, I want to have a baby and I want to do all this. It was because he's like, you haven't taken any, so he kind of became your parent there and pushed you in the right direction.
I think so.
Yeah. It's interesting because you hear people say the doctor didn't do enough, or, they could have tried to help me with this, or blah, blah, blah. And then you hear doctors say, well, listen, people aren't ready to take help and you can't force them. And to me, it seems like I don't know. I don't know if it's a little bit of each side blaming each other, or if each side's right in some scenarios. I can never tell completely, or if it's just not something I'm ever going to quite figure out. But it's.
I think you're definitely right in that. In this case, most definitely, because he had all the right reasons to think that I was, and I know that I wasn't compliant, but it was that sense of frustration of being like, come on, like I'm here, I'm raising my white flag, I'm asking for help. Don't make me feel even worse than what I already do, in a sense. Like, right. Yeah, good. That was probably the thing that sort of put me, like, while I felt like I was taking a step forward, it sort of also made me feel like I got kicked back a couple of steps.
How so?
I think it was, I remember feeling quite, I wouldn't say traumatized is the word, but to an extent, like it sort of put me in a place of where I was like, oh, okay, I better be good. And really over focusing, like, really micromanaging things as much as I could for periods after seeing him, thinking, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. Like, it was, everything was so catastrophic. And there was no happy medium.
I see.
For a period of time.
Well, what did you do then? What were the steps that you took to bring yourself from where you were to where you are now? And where are you now? Like, what do you have better variability?
Yes.
Less up and down. What's your A1C?
Yes. All of the good things. So, my endo at the time put me then on to Lantus and Nova Rapid. That was her first step, taught me how to do all of that. Prior to my pregnancy in 2016, I'd gotten my A1C down to 6.8. I got a pump the April of that year of 2016. So I got the Animus pump.
Mm-hmm.
That made a massive difference again. So having going from, when she found out that I was on the Novamix and then sort of suggested going on to, the Nova Rapid and the Lantus, and I'm like, oh, more injections, like this is, god awful. And she's like, no, this is going to make a massive difference. Like you're going to have freedom. Like it's not going to seem like it, but it is. I'm like, okay. And then I got the gist of what she meant, and really started to micromanage things and doing so much better. And then the pump coming up and knowing how much more freedom again, having something attached to me all the time. So yeah, sort of, flash forward to now, and I have a 5.8 A1C.
Wow.
I am on the Tandem with Basal IQ and have a Dexcom G6 and have had so for the last 3 years. I've had the Dexcom, for the last 3 years, had the G5 and then transitioned when it got approved in Australia to the G6. Yeah.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah.
That must feel amazing, right?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, like, I think the turning point really was basically everything sort of continued to happen in a very, very much the same sort of way between, all through my pregnancy, I tried to manage as best as I could, had my daughter, my A1C went back up a bit, trying to balance being a mother and looking after myself and looking after another person. And then getting basically to 12 months ago and got married in June of last year and went to my endo. And again, I've managed 7 A1Cs up and down, for the last few years. And I think my A1C was 7.6 or 7.8 or something after the wedding. I'm like, okay, something's got to give. Like, I don't feel okay about this. Like, I'd been fighting pretty much with my diabetes educator for the previous 6 months, her trying to, just us butting heads, trying to manage things. She was always like, why is this happening? And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't understand why. Like, and it was frustrating for me because she was questioning, my data, but I didn't understand it either. And, she was thinking, well, did you eat here? And I'm like, no, I told you I didn't. Like, I don't know why it's just shot up like that. Right. I don't understand. No one sort of like, I got given a Dexcom, but with absolutely no context on what to do with it other than this is going to save you from testing,
I didn't know you and I were going to learn this at the same time. Is that what's happening right now?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm like, seriously, like it felt like it was all very much like since, I don't know, like since listening to so many other people's experiences and I'm sure they've all probably had similar-ish times as well where there is that sense of, okay, well, I've been given a piece of technology or equipment and not really any instructions on how to use it, but it just sort of was like, oh, here's a pump. Mm-hmm. There you go for it. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, well, I've got my, I'll wait. And, everyone does for a period of time. I'll wait until they tell me to, bump it here and whatnot. And I think it's that I didn't feel confident or comfortable having ownership of my own health.
Okay.
And
you were waiting for somebody to tell you what to do.
100%. Okay. 100%. That's exactly what it was. And I remember I went through like the beginning of last year and was like, I was never a podcast person, never listened to anything. I was like, no, thanks. I don't do that. And my drive to work's about 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back. So I started listening to some self-helpy sort of stuff and whatnot. And then I remember having this thought of, maybe I could listen to something that might actually help me. These are great, but like I could be doing something more practical with this time if I'm going to, whilst I was in the realm of listening to podcasts, and that's what made me stumble,
Melissa, getting your chakra in line wasn't helping you?
Yeah.
No?
Not at all.
How about
not
that?
At all. No. All the journaling in the world is not going to do anything for my blood sugars.
I kept writing down how I felt, and my A1C didn't move.
Nothing changed. Surprise.
Yeah. We listen to an episode about pre-bolusing and see what happens.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's exactly what I did. That was the thing that I was butting heads with my doctor about so much, because I remember when they started looking at my time and range and sort of going, oh, well, you're only like 30% time and range. And I'm like, where am I meant to be? And they're like, oh, well, you're meant to be at 70%. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, okay.
Would have been cool if someone told me that. And by the way, how do I do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was still stuck in that realm of take 8 jelly beans, wait a bit, have a sandwich, wait a bit, and just keep loading it all up, and then you'll be okay. You're not going to die. Mm. And it like saying it now makes me feel really dumb, because it took another educator at my clinic who is also a diabetic to say to me, have you ever considered just eating less? And you wouldn't have that big spike. And I'm like,
wait
no,
a minute.
I didn't.
Hold on a second. You're saying these carbs are making my blood sugar go up? Hold on a second.
Stop it.
Wait a second. Hold on. I feel like a crocodile is just going up the waterway. I don't know what to do.
Slipped up the stream.
Yeah, slipped up the stream. Exactly. I don't know. I forgot my own saying. Boy, that's embarrassing, Melissa. And
that's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
It was like, what is this that you're telling me? And she's like, well, just like try having 4 jelly beans. Don't have, if you're 3.6, just have a few jelly beans. You only want it to go up to 5. And I'm like, what? This whole time I've been eating 8 and then having a sandwich or a glass of milk.
Right.
And then I'll go up to 13 and then, and I'm playing that roller coaster ride. And
yeah. How about instead of listening to a podcast about quilting, you find something about
exactly.
I know it's relaxing and all, but well, I'm very happy that you landed where you did. It sounds, exceptional, the change.
Oh, 100%. Like I remember, I think the first episode I listened to was Chris Rudin, 200 and something.
Mm-hmm.
And I just recently, it was yesterday, listened to the second one that you did with him.
Can I tell you before you finish your story? I just booked him for next year yesterday.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. How funny. Oh my God.
I saw him doing something on Instagram and I was so touched by it that I just commented, and then he reached out and said, can I get back on the podcast? I want to talk about mental health and diabetes and stuff. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yes. I was like, I can't have you on for like a while because my schedule's so full. I was like, but go grab a date. So he did yesterday. So that's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, all the planets are in a line. That's awesome.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. So you listen to Chris?
Yeah, no. Yeah. And again, I think, it was just that time and place. Like I had been following Chris for a period of time prior to seeing him on like with the podcast, because he was in, the diabetes community. I do CrossFit and have done powerlifting, and then, I found him through all of that and was just in awe of all of the things that he does and everything like that. So seeing his name attached to the episode, I'm like, oh, cool. Someone that I sort of not know, obviously, but know of.
This title makes sense.
Yeah, it's exactly. I'll listen to this because I know what, we're not talking about, anything else. So I get, yeah. So I listened to that and I thought that, yeah, okay. Like everyone else that's, come and spoken to you, and it's like, wow, this guy doesn't, like, it took me a while, again, having absolutely no context about you at all, and realizing, I think, mightn't have even been in that episode. It mightn't have been probably until I'd listened to maybe 2 or 3 that I'm like, you don't actually have diabetes. It's your daughter. That's incredible. You are incredible.
Oh.
You are, and, and just sort of, and just being in awe of the fact of, again, as everyone has said, that, that you're able to, do what you do, because it really has made such a difference.
I'm glad. That's wonderful. I appreciate you saying that too. Thank you. I was pretty proud of myself for not saying something stupid while you were doing that, because it occurred, like, when I hear you ramping up to say something nice to me, I'm like, just deflect with humor. Just don't, just say something now.
Turn it away.
Go, oh, this is the part where you say something nice about me. Let me be quiet and listen, which is me going, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. Please stop. But at the same time, I need you to talk because it's a podcast. Like, if we were in public and you started talking, I'd be like, I get it, Melissa. I helped you. Thank you. Stop. Don't tell me.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's going to make me feel like a douchebag. Just stop. Okay. So, but I don't know what's wrong with me. But I'm doing much better. You have to admit, over the years, of listening to somebody say something nice about the podcast, I think 8 more years, I'm going to be normal.
You have grown.
I'll be normal in a couple more times. Yeah, you guys all just keep hanging out and listening for the time when I just accept a compliment like an adult. So,
it's. I think, again, it just reiterates even more so when, in reflection, when, pretty much every time I speak to my educator or even to my endo, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I've been doing, and I'm telling them what I'm doing with my health, and I'm in control of what I'm doing, and they're just like, yep, cool. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, cool. And I'm like, well, these aren't my ideas. Like, this is from high above. Like, this is
please, now I've got to say something where that's not true. I'm still stuck. I got hung with the Arden being sarcastic on her episode. And she goes, I know everyone thinks you're a diabetes god or something. I don't forget exactly what she said, but somebody called me that online the other day, and I'm like, please stop doing that. Like, please. It's very uncomfortable for me. No one cares about me, Melissa. Like, I see someone write that, I'm like, oh, don't say that. Like,
please don't.
Oh, I don't want anyone to hear you saying that, because now I have to come in and be like, oh no, and then then it looks like false modesty. You know what I mean? Like, where I'm like, oh, like, like if a guy scored a touchdown, and, well, you don't have any real sports, so you don't understand what I'm saying. But if somebody did something. If somebody did something exceptional in a sporting event, and then at the end they were like, nah, it was nothing. You're like, bullshit, it's nothing. You're so much faster than everybody else. And so I can't win, is my point. Like, there's no way for me to jump in and say, oh, that's, so I just end up saying things like, that's very kind, or, because I don't know what to say. Like, what am I supposed to say? I am really good at this. I mean, if I said,
take it, take it, 100%. Thank you. Yes, I am.
I don't know what to do.
I am God. No.
See how uncomfortable that is? I don't feel that way. I want everyone to know that's listening. Those were Melissa's words, and I don't feel like that.
They'll all agree with me, though.
All I did was I stepped back, and I was like, I have to figure out how this insulin works. I'm using it wrong. And then I figured it out, and then I found ways to talk about it that are relatable and easy to remember. That's all.
100%. And then it still surprises me, like, now that I'm in a place where I feel comfortable being able to explain things to my, healthcare people, that there is that they don't see that. They don't see the sense of, like, adapting the way that they're trying to teach people so that it lands. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like they have one teaching style, and they assume that everyone's got one learning style. And if the two don't meet in the middle, then you're stuffed.
Melissa, listen, it's unfair because there's only one God. So what are you expecting from these people? Really?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Can I tell you what they lack, in my opinion, and from my experience? It's the ability to tell a story. It just, that's what this is, really.
Creativity.
So,
and just this, they're all, as I said, they're all dumb. They just...
All right, Mellisa, this is a good place to stop before you alienate the rest of that island. And it's an island, right? I'm not wrong about that, technically.
Yes, it's an island, a big one. Yes.
Yeah. But when are you guys going to invade New Zealand and just turn that into like a heliport for yourself or something like that? Is that what you're... No?
It is a wee little while away from us. Like we have Tasmania, which is like the equivalent of Sicily at the bottom of Italy, sort of thing. Like it's tiny little place, but yeah, New Zealand is, I think it's like a 5 or 6 hour flight from...
No, it's not as close as I think. It looks very close on that map thing. I don't know what to tell you. And I've had a number of people on from New Zealand who are lovely, by the way. So
100%. I've got heaps of friends that are New Zealand. They're lovely.
All right, Mellisa, listen, I appreciate you doing this very much. I thought this was wonderful. I appreciate you being kind and letting me be a few minutes late. That was very nice too. The part the part where you referred to me lovingly, I enjoyed. I don't want to say otherwise. I'm just thrilled that neither of us was bit by anything deadly during this. You probably more than me. I'm never coming where you are because I'm scared to death of the wildlife. I just want to be clear about that. And I don't want to be on a plane that long. Those are pretty much my 2 reasons.
Fair.
But it sounds like listen, I was going to lie and say it sounds lovely, but it sounds like California is what you just described to me. So I don't know what to
pretty
say.
Much. Not that I've been to California, but that's how I would imagine it also being.
Right. Yeah. Well, what are we going to do? Well, if we're all not killed by a heat wave, I look forward to this coming out and so people could hear it.
Very much so. I'm very excited too.
Cool. No, you were terrific. Really. I appreciate you doing this very much. I know you stayed up late and that is even.
No.
Do you know
I was excited.
There's a picture of a platypus in front of me the entire time you were talking. Those are from there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I never once mentioned it because I'm really am maturing as I get older. So Arden drew a picture of a platypus on my whiteboard in front of me. And then she wrote something next to it that I can't tell you because it's incredibly inappropriate.
It's super appropriate.
Yeah. So anyway. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Love it.
Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
Oh, of course.
No dramas, Del.
A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. And thank you, US Med. Head over now to get your free benefits check at usmed.com/juicebox. Or if you want to use the phone, 888-721-1514. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.